Recollection Road is proud to partner with LEGACYBOX. If you've considered preserving your family's memories, then watch until the end of this video to see how LEGACYBOX can help you do it. Changing into play clothes after school was a daily occurrence, Monday through Friday, and it marked the transition from the formal classroom to the freedom of the outdoors. Kids would rush home and then shed their nice and often newer school clothing to don their more comfortable and more worn-out play clothes. These clothes often bore the marks of previous outdoor fun, with grass stains, patches, and minor tears that were a testament to the active and adventurous lives of young kids. Heading outside to play was the best part of the day, where kids could meet up with the other neighborhood kids and explore the neighborhood, play games of tag, hopscotch, or even a pickup game of football. This embodied a time when children's imaginations would come up with all kinds of things to keep them busy, right up until the street lamps came on and they headed home. The era of double features brought an air of excitement to the movie-going experience. You would arrive at the theater, purchase a single ticket, and settle in for a movie marathon. The main feature film was often accompanied by a B-movie, allowing moviegoers a 2-for-1 deal. This was perfect for kids who needed to occupy an entire summer afternoon, because as soon as the lights were dimmed, the anticipation would ramp up, making going to a double feature a special treat. Remember when we would buy blank VHS tapes to record our favorite shows? All of them seemed to have this bright and wild artwork on the cardboard sleeves. Blank VHS tapes made it easy to curate a personal collection of favorite shows and movies, and we would store them in wood panel drawers close by the VCR. It was common to record and then re-record on these tapes over and over again. The labels would often have titles crossed out and new ones written showing the new name of whatever was recorded. And how many times did something important get recorded over? I know this happened a few times in my house. Do you remember watching some of these famous commercials during the 1970s? Breyer's Viennetta cake was a culinary pinnacle during the 1980s and 1990s. This ice cream cake, with touches of crackling chocolate flavor, brought an air of sophistication to dessert time. Although I'm not even sure I ever had a piece of the cake, I know that I wished I had. The delicate ribbons of vanilla ice cream and layers of chocolate always looked rich and delicious. Speaking of rich, it also wasn't cheap, making it a dessert that might only make an appearance at special occasions. Viennetta was discontinued in the late 1990s, as were many other fads from that time, but recently the Good Humor Ice Cream Company reintroduced it in hopes its popularity would make a comeback. Unwrapping a piece of red, white, and blue Bazooka Joe bubblegum was a small but delightful treat. The comic strip that it was wrapped in made it even more enjoyable. These short but humorous comic strips featured the adventures of Bazooka Joe and his friends. Many kids would collect the comic strips and even trade them with friends to try and complete their collections. The rectangular slab of gum as we remember it was introduced by the Topps Company back in the 1950s, and over the years they produced over 1,500 comic strips. High Karate Aftershave was more than just aftershave. It was a reflection of the changing perceptions of manhood. The ads of High Karate played on the idea that using the aftershave would make men irresistible to women. The playful marketing tapped into the desires and aspirations of men, using humor and often exaggerated scenarios to capture the attention of consumers. The budget-friendly High Karate became a symbol of the 1970s, and the funny ads of men using self-defense to fend off women made it even more popular. Microfiche machines were once essential tools for accessing older information before the digital age. Libraries mainly housed collections of microfiche that held a trove of historical documents, newspapers, and academic journals in a very small format that made cataloging and storing much easier. Researchers, students, and the just plain curious would spend hours navigating through rolls of microfiche, adjusting the machine's focus to read small print in hopes you could find what you were looking for. Do you remember these posters that teens had pinned to their walls? Clove, Beeman, and Blackjack gum are some of the most fondly remembered chewing gums, and that's because many of us grew up chewing it. We all had our favorite. Clove was warm and spicy. Beeman was herbal and a favorite of pilots, and Blackjack had that licorice flavor. Chewing gum, especially these three flavors, transport you right back to the 1960s and connect us to history even further back than that. The gum that originated in the late 1800s may have been something you chewed because your dad or grandpa did too, and the affinity for the gum was passed down to you. Shopping at A&P was once an experience shared nationwide. A&P pioneered many innovations in the grocery business, including the concept of self-service, standardized price tags, and prepackaged foods. Walking into an A&P and smelling the freshly ground 8 o'clock coffee from the grinders that were near the checkouts was unmistakable. If you were a lucky kid, you may have even been able to help grind the coffee. The grocery store became a hub where families would make weekly trips to pick up groceries. Walking the aisles, hearing that soft music play in the background, and smelling that coffee bean aroma made A&P a special memory for many who were able to experience it. There was once a time when our television sets were colossal pieces of furniture, and nothing like the sleek screens we have hanging on the wall today. When we had problems with the thing working, we would call up a TV repairman to diagnose and fix our TV, so we could get back to enjoying our evening programs. They were skilled electronics professionals and would show up at your doorstep, armed with a toolbox and a wealth of knowledge. They'd tinker with the vacuum tubes, fix some connections with their soldering iron, and then adjust the antennas before restoring our beloved TV to its former glory. This was a time when TVs were an expensive purchase for a family, so repairing it was much more common than just throwing it out and getting a new one. Remember the simple pastime of making long chains out of gum wrappers? This seemingly mundane activity was a creative way to recycle the wrappers after chewing your favorite gum brand. You would carefully fold and link the gum wrappers to create these colorful chains, some of which were super long. You could also turn the chains into things like bracelets, necklaces, and even earrings. Needless to say, this makeshift craft kept many young girls busy, chewing gum and chaining the wrappers together. Another endearing childhood trend was all about having good luck. A lucky rabbit's foot was the way that many kids made their own luck decades ago. These colorful fuzzy charms, often made from faux fur, were believed to bring you good luck if you had them hanging off your backpack or on a keychain. The idea that these rabbit feet held magical powers might have been pure superstition, but they were cherished possessions for many young people, enough so that some had built up a collection of the furry feet. Do you happen to remember these public service announcements? A trip to the grocery store with Mom was usually made better by a stop at the Brock's Pick-a-Mix candy bins. As you strolled patiently through the aisles, the candies would draw you in, with their rows upon rows of colorful, sugary delights, just waiting for you to shovel them into a bag. Picking the perfect mix of candies meant balancing variety with your love for your favorite flavors. The square caramels, twisted royals, smooth taffy, gummy goodies, and assortment of hard candy meant there was something for everybody, including your parents, who would make sure you grabbed something for them too. For young readers, there was nothing better than the thrilling adventures of the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew. These young detectives were the heroes of countless mysteries that kept us engrossed for hours on end. Each book was an escape, filled with intrigue, suspense, and problem-solving that had us eagerly flipping through pages, trying to unravel the mysteries alongside our fictional heroes. These formative series of books fueled a love for reading and made the annual school book fair a treasured event. Cereal boxes once offered kids all sorts of amazing toys and trinkets just for their loyalty. But who remembers when they came with record albums on the back? The instructions were simple: cut on the dotted line, punch out the hole in the middle, and then place it on a record player. These cereal box records were sometimes hard to get to play, but it didn't stop us from trying. Popular songs from the Jackson 5, the Monkees, and Bobby Sherman could be found on the back of cereals like Honeycombs or Sugar Crisp, and the promotion managed to fuse together two of our favorite childhood joys. When it came to grooming one's hair, especially during the 1950s and 1960s, Brill cream was what young men reached for. The slick back and sophisticated look was in, and a tube of Brill cream made you look like a young Dick Clark with shiny and smart hair. Who could forget that famous slogan, "A little dab'll do ya"? This was a time when personal grooming meant using timeless products like Brill cream, leaving you with perfectly styled hair that could rival the most famous movie star. It was about looking sharp and feeling confident, one hairdo at a time. Who remembers these old cereal brands? Outside grocery stores, department stores, and strip malls, there were once fantastical kiddie rides that beckoned children to beg their parents for coins. With just a dime or a quarter, you could instantly be turned into an astronaut on a rocket ship, or a cowboy on a trusty steed that had you begging for one more ride. These mechanical rides moved quite slow, up or down, or in a circle, but they were fun nonetheless. These rides also gave us something to look forward to, turning a plain shopping trip into a moment of joy that seems to have disappeared with many of our favorite department stores. There used to be fewer options when it came to morning television for children. There were 3 big networks, plus PBS, and the shows that aired were very distinct in their own unique ways. Shows like Captain Kangaroo and The Electric Company played a significant role in the development of many kids. These shows weren't just about entertainment. They had educational components that engaged young viewers with unforgettable characters. Captain Kangaroo's haircut and red blazer set him apart. Both of these shows also featured Bill Cosby, who took over a segment on Captain Kangaroo called Picture Pages in 1980. This had every kid wanting a marker that made that special sound when it was used. These shows were more than just goofy shows. They were windows to a world of imagination. We discussed TV repair earlier, but there was some TV maintenance that we could take care of ourselves. Remember the vacuum tubes that would need testing and occasional replacement? A trip to the nearest drugstore or hardware store is where you would find a testing station, and you could pick up replacement tubes as well. For a kid tagging along with Dad on a Saturday morning, it was exciting and a bit like conducting a mini science experiment. Plus, the picture on your TV would be back to looking clear again. In the past, it was relatively common for grown-ups to send their children to the local convenience stores with handwritten notes. Usually, it was to pick up a pack of cigarettes. This was something that was prevalent in an era when smoking was much more widespread. The note would typically specify the brand and the quantity of cigarettes to buy, and the kid would have cash to pay for it. This was a time when the storekeeper knew many of their customers, and it wasn't unusual for them to honor the note. Before home electronics became much more affordable, some people often rented equipment like televisions and VCRs. Big, heavy TVs could be rented from places like Curtis Mathis, and they would deliver it to your door, while VCRs were commonly available at video rental stores. This made using newer technology a bit more affordable for those that needed something for a special occasion. Tinker toys and Lincoln Logs are classic toys that have been enjoyed for generations. But when was the last time you saw them being used? Tinker toys consisted of wooden spools and sticks that could be interconnected to build various structures, encouraging creativity and fine motor skills. Lincoln Logs, on the other hand, were small wooden logs with notches that fit together, enabling kids to build log cabins. Both toys were very popular 50 years ago, and they have left a lasting legacy as timeless toys. But it's difficult to compete with the video games and iPads that kids are addicted to today. Hand-painted signs on buildings were a common way for businesses to advertise in the pre-digital age. Skilled sign painters would use brushes and paint to create intricate and colorful signs that were large and attention-grabbing. The brick buildings along Main Street were the perfect canvases, often featuring elaborate typography and eye-catching designs, adding character to many downtown areas. With the rise of modern printing techniques, sign painters have all but disappeared. Luckily, small towns across the country still have some of these faded ghost signs, and in many cases, they are working to preserve them too. Before the introduction of the self-sticking postage stamp, people had to moisten the back of a stamp with their tongue to activate the glue, and then affix it to an envelope. This was back when writing letters and putting things in the mail was a daily thing. Who remembers when a stamp cost just 6 cents? Well, if you do, then you certainly remember licking the back of hundreds of stamps to mail your share of letters. Cigarette vending machines were once a typical thing you might find in a bar or restaurant. It was all about convenience, and these machines allowed people to buy a pack of cigarettes in places where there tended to be more smoking. So for the chain smoker who spent a lot of time at these gathering spots, they were cherished machines. Since then, cigarette vending machines have largely disappeared from the American commercial landscape. Avon is still a well-known cosmetics company, but there was a time when selling Avon meant going door to door. Women, often referred to as Avon ladies, would make their way around the neighborhoods building a clientele of friends and neighbors who swore by Avon products. For many women, this gave them flexibility when it came to working and raising a family. The Avon lady pitch was important, so when they would visit a home, the products would always be demonstrated. From makeup to household products, Avon built a loyal customer base by selling their products door to door. Legs is a brand of pantyhose that used to be sold in large plastic eggs. These egg-shaped containers were distinctive and made Legs a popular choice when it came to buying pantyhose. The packaging actually helped prevent runs in the hosiery and made them easily recognizable on store shelves. Not only would women buy these pantyhose, but the egg-shaped container would often be reused for other purposes, including as makeshift toys for kids. Do you remember watching some of these old game shows on daytime TV? The Draw Your Favorite contest was a marketing campaign used by the art instruction schools in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a correspondence course program that taught aspiring artists how to draw. And it would all start with an ad in a magazine or a newspaper. Kids would be encouraged to draw a turtle or a pirate and submit their test for a chance to win prizes or even scholarships to the art school. For a kid, these ads were always tempting because many of us grew up reading comics and seeing cartoons that made being an artist seem like the perfect job. Raggedy Ann and Andy were dolls created to accompany a series of books in the 1920s. The beloved dolls became staples in pretty much every kid's room during the middle part of the century. The dolls had red yarn for hair, stitched faces, and simple clothing, and the dolls showed up in books and on television, making them popular with children. Raggedy Ann and Andy became an enduring icon of childhood, making them not only keepsakes, but also highly collectible. Burger Chef was known for its hamburgers. Ordering a Big Chef and heading over to the Works bar to dress it up was always a treat. This restaurant was special, from the architecture of the building and signage, to the food offerings, which included the first kids' meal called the Fun Burger. It was Burger Chef and Jeff that were the face of the restaurant, and the characters had kids asking to go to Burger Chef quite often. Today, Burger Chef is still fondly remembered as one of America's favorite fast food places, although it was sold to Hardee's back in 1982. Recollection Road loves to recommend LEGACYBOX because we both believe in preserving the past. If you have a cluttered closet with cherished home videos and photos that rarely see the light of day, then you need to visit LEGACYBOX.com/recollection. These irreplaceable heirlooms are rapidly fading away, and they deserve to be digitized and shared with family and friends. And right now, LEGACYBOX is offering you $9 tape transfers. The process is simple. Send in your LEGACYBOX filled with old VHS tapes, camcorder tapes, and pictures. Their team will professionally digitize everything by hand, right here in the USA. You'll get the originals returned to you, along with organized digital copies. I love LEGACYBOX because it makes all my favorite memories available anytime. I can post them on social media or pull up a slideshow on my TV, which keeps special family moments alive. Visit LEGACYBOX.com/recollection to shop their $9 tape sale. That's LEGACYBOX.com/recollection to unlock this incredible offer. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and make sure to check the description of this video for links to pick up a t-shirt and sign up for the newsletter. Thank you to our loyal Patreon supporters listed here. Visit patreon.com/recollectionroad to join the club.